2,000 people round up, sending to camp, just because of me.
China never charged her with anything. It didn't have to. She was already in Washington. She read the news. For 24 years, she worked for a radio network paid for by the United States Congress, broadcasting into a place where her language was becoming a liability. That was the job.
RFA as a hostile foreign news network.
Tonight, at least 9 people who reported for American broadcasters are sitting in prison. Not here, at home, in Azerbaijan, in Vietnam, in Iran. Most of them are paying that bill themselves. One of them watched 24 other people get handed the invoice. So the question I want to put to you is this: why go after the family? I'll answer it, but not yet, because the ordinary version has to come first. Ulviyya Ali is a reporter in Azerbaijan, freelance, the kind who writes a story first and finds someone to run it after. For years, one of the outlets that ran her work was Voice of America. In February of last year, Azerbaijan pulled the broadcaster's accreditation. 3 weeks later, Washington signed an order that took its funding, and the transmitters went quiet. 2 governments ended her job in the same month. Only one of them meant to. She kept working anyway, on her own accounts, with no outlet behind her, covering the thing most likely to get her arrested: political trials. On the 7th of May, police came through her door. They searched the apartment and said they found 6,000 euros in cash. She was charged with smuggling currency. Not incitement, not slander, not a word she had written. The money. 3 months later, they added 7 more counts: illegal business, tax evasion, money laundering, 8 charges, all about the money. Her arrest brought the number of journalists jailed in Azerbaijan since late 2023 to at least 25. She has not been convicted of anything. She has been in a cell for 15 months. Azerbaijan has been at this for nearly 3 years and still hasn't convicted her. Vietnam doesn't need 3 years. Vietnam already knows how this ends. It has done it to the same man twice. Nguyen Vu Bin spent nearly 10 years writing for the Communist Party's own journal. Then he quit and started writing about human rights instead. In July 2002, he sent written testimony to the United States Congress. 2 months later, they arrested him. The following December, a court in Hanoi convicted him of espionage and gave him 7 years, with 3 more years of house arrest waiting at the end of it. He served 2/3 of it and walked out under a presidential amnesty in June 2007. And then came the part of his life that looked like an ordinary career. 9 years with Radio Free Asia, more than 300 pieces, the last one published on the 22nd of February, 2024. They came for him 7 days later. That September, a court gave him 7 years. Same country, same man, same number, 2 decades apart. He is one of 6 people in Vietnamese prisons who wrote for American broadcasters. The longest sentence among them is 15 years. The newest arrest was this March. They all knew the price going in. So why keep doing it? The woman you saw in the first 10 seconds made that same calculation in 2001 on her way out of the country, because the job came with something nobody wrote into the contract. If you wrote for an American network and somebody came for you, a phone rang in Washington. Not always, not quickly, but it rang. The broadcaster's own staff put it in writing that backing can provide a measure of protection. That was the high point. Farid Morales-Sada is an economist. He explained inflation to people in their own language for Radio Free Europe. He is in an Azerbaijani prison. His daughter was born while he was inside. Somebody decided that a room with a table is where she meets her father. That decision gets renewed every month. He at least is being tried in the country he lives in. Reza Valizadeh flew into his. He spent years telling Iranians what was happening in Iran, from a studio that wasn't in Iran. Then he went back. 10 years.
I'm Ali, your colleague who is sending you this message from Evin prison in Tehran. The US government could have demanded our exchange in return.
No phone rang for either of them. That is what a measure of protection turned out to be worth. But at least it was their phone, their job, their risk. Now here's the one where it wasn't. One of the people in this film said something I keep coming back to. If we go quiet, the world just forgets. That's the whole job of this channel, making sure it doesn't. So make sure you subscribe and leave your thoughts in the comments. Before any of this, Gulchera Hoja was famous. She hosted a children's program on Chinese state television in Xinjiang.
It was a great sacrifice to leave my homeland. I left behind a successful career as a television journalist. I also left my home, my parents, my family, and my friends. But coming here guaranteed me freedom, something that could never be realized in China.
That November, she went on air under her own name for the first time. She says that was the month China opened a file on her, went back through everything she had ever recorded, video, photographs, audio, and destroyed all of it.
I first heard my brother, Kaysar Kiyum, was detained at the end of September last year. Police had taken him when he was driving my mother to doctor's appointment, leaving her alone in the car without any explanation. She waited for her son, who would never return. Kaysar was being held in one of the so-called re-education centers in Urumqi. We have not seen him since.
September 2017. They never told the family why. At the end of January 2018, in a single night, Chinese authorities detained 24 members of her family. Her mother, Kimangul Zikri, 74 years old, among them. Her father was not taken. He was in the hospital. He had had a stroke. She says 7 journalists at that one radio service, herself included, have had more than 70 relatives jailed or targeted.
Though we have journalistic understanding about so many events happening in the Uyghur region, we are often the last to know if our mothers, our fathers, our brothers, our sisters, and our children in prison or not, if they are sentencing or punishment, if they are in need of health or medical care, if they are still alive. That is the fear we live with every day.
But taking them was not the last thing Beijing did. In April 2021, a Chinese state outlet published a video of her mother and her brother. They are sitting at home. They say life is normal. They say the pension is enough. And her brother says that some of his sister's behavior is incorrect. Prison takes your freedom. This takes something else. I told you I'd answer the question. Before I do, here's the part I left out. Some of this works, not all of it, and never cleanly. Ihar Losik got out of a Belarusian prison and onto a bus to the Lithuanian border with 51 other people and no passport. That is exile, not a pardon. But it opens doors and nothing else does. Here's one. Alsukur Masheva is an editor. She flew back to Russia because of a family emergency and did not come out for more than 9 months. Her captors had a line they used on her, and she can still repeat it. Nobody wants you back there. Negotiations are not going on. They haven't even started, and you will end up here with a long sentence.
What helped me through that, I knew the world knew about me. I knew I wasn't forgotten. I always believed that for the exchange, I always knew that we were working on that step by step, small cautious steps, but that was my only hope.
In August 2024, she came home in a prisoner exchange.
When we were on the tarmac, I think I then finally realized she's about to come out, and we will be able to once again hug also.
And it worked one more time. For the family you met in the first 10 seconds. After Gulchera Hoja testified in Congress, members of Congress wrote to Beijing and demanded her family be let go. In her own words, thanks to the intervention of those legislators, most of her family are free today.
Every hour. But there's one greater fear that urges us on, that if we stop doing our duty as journalists, if we were silent, the world would simply forget.
Attention doesn't open every door, but it is the only thing that has ever opened one. These are the people in this film: Ulviyya Ali, Nguyen Vu Bin, Farid Mehralisada, Reza Valisade, Gulchera Hoja. Some of them are still in a cell tonight. Some of them are home. The difference between those two groups was never courage. They all had that. The difference was whether anyone outside was still saying their names. Thanks for watching all the way through. Subscribe and tell me in the comments what you think should happen next. I read all of them.